Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in to read My Hero Academia chapter 237. Okay, very quickly before we get into the chapter, if you are watching this video, chances are I've already started doing a live stream over on Twitch. I will leave a link in the description down below for the Twitch channel. It's going to be Fire Emblem Three Houses. I'm going to be getting the game. Ideally, by the time this video is up, I'm already on Twitch. So after this video is done, if you want to see Fire Emblem, jump on over. I will be there, ideally, fingers crossed, because you never really know, right? You never really know where these things want to go. Anyway, My Hero Academia, chapter 237, let's just jump into it. So first thing I want to say is, like, you know, you go into this chapter, and I'm really bothered, and I'm bothered because my feelings, I think, are impacting my judgment way too much, because, you know, like, we opened up this chapter, last time, I'm chasing down that conspiracy theory so much that I can't see the most obvious solution, such as Shigaraki just going on the run and people being dicks. You know, like, that was a very obvious, simple solution to this whole situation, but I couldn't see it. So it kind of sucks. So from here on out, I'm going to abandon, like, the whole conspiracy theory, at least when it comes to talking about the chapter, because this is, the more we go into this, the more it seems like this is, like, sort of a natural occurrence. Like, there's still the opportunity for some dark play here. Like, there's still the opportunity that All For One was watching Shigaraki as he was wandering by himself. Like, that's still, I think, a very active opportunity, because, like, it's like, hey, the more he sees of this terrible world, the more he's gonna get screwed over. So, you know, I could still see this as All For One nurturing him, but, like, at the same time, there is that level of this could just be normal. So I'm just bothered because I'm missing little things, right? Like, my bias is obscuring my judgment a little bit. But anyway, that's just overall how I feel about it for the chapter. It's just I'm bothered that I'm so incorrect because, you know, again, the simplest answer for Shigaraki is that he just left the house and was wandering around. If anything, the thing that this chapter kind of does for Shigaraki as well is that when you talk about, like, who's going to be the endgame villain, you know, this last continuation of 3 chapters is like, yeah, okay, Shigaraki does have more of a stake of legitimately being All For One's successor without All For One screwing him over. Like, what All For One says about giving Shigaraki the role of being the next All For One, like, it feels less and less like he's just saying that and more like, okay, this is actually might be a legitimate parallel between him and All Might. This might actually be the man actually feeling like he is going to have a student that's going to surpass him. And that's a lot. That's, yeah, I mean, like, whenever he said it before, I thought he was just being cheeky. I thought he was lying, but now it's like, this is becoming more convincing. Although I guess, like, in terms of if we're placing bets, I'll probably still hold on to the conspiracy theory that All For One's behind everything, just because I find that one fun. But the odds for that, I feel, are going down as we continue along in the chapter. Anyway, for just a reminder, because Shonen Jump has struck down the channel, we're going to be kind of careful with what images show up on the screen. But yeah, let's just get into it. So the first page, I'm using the manga stream translation. The first page is a page, it's pretty much an establishing shot. When you look at that first page, it's just pretty much painting the indifference of the world, that the world keeps on moving. And you can kind of tell it by the way people aren't even looking down at the kid in the majority of the shots. And then you have, like, the one reaction shot of a guy seeing the kid and then just turning away. This is a pretty nasty aspect of society. Shigaraki's suffering and no one's getting involved. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. All it really takes is someone being a good person, and this could have gone differently instead of just averting their eyes away. Because it's kind of weird, especially in a quirky world. It's kind of weird that situations where kids get lost because of a sudden activation of their quirk doesn't happen more often. Especially when you're going in, well, maybe this is, what, 20 years ago? So maybe the quirk singularity effects haven't really, like, made themselves known. But it's just, I feel like lost kids would happen a bit more in the Hero Academia world, just by the nature of the randomness of quirks. I mean, like, Eri automatically destroyed her father, and, you know, we saw all the things that she went through, right? when it comes to the kids with tragic stories, it's like the quirk activation is a part of those tragic stories. Although right now we have Shigaraki and we have Eri as the examples of that kind of idea. Anyway, one thing about that page is that it's ultimately a page that I think is supposed to drum up emotions, especially when you have Shigaraki doing rhetorical questions like, what am I supposed to do now? Someone, anyone tell me? Like those pleas for help, definitely it just reinforces like this is a shitty situation. So that's what that page is trying to build. Page 3, we have some interesting things going on. You know, we have a person actually stepping up to help him, and then only things getting worse. When we have the old lady coming in, and then we see Shigaraki's face, the lady gets kind of freaked out by it. Now, what I am kind of curious about, well, no, not curious. Like the big thing that I think about when I see this woman getting freaked out by him, it's like it's funny whenever you see how paper thin people's acceptance of others' visual qualities are, because in a world where people look so different, it's kind of weird, or it's kind of unfortunate that people are still taken aback by weird visuals. Although most likely Shigaraki looks pretty messed up, like visually. Like it's kind of hard to tell in the manga just with the shading. I mean, there's blood on his face and all that, but like the first thing that this girl should think is that this poor boy has been abused because he has blood on his face, right? That's the first thing that little old lady should think. But no, we're not getting it. Maybe Shigaraki's just so shocked that he looks terrifying. You know, we have him painted with his eyes so sunken in, but at the same time, it's like people are still just looking at visuals, and if it seems weird, you know, they're not acting on it. And what's interesting too is that that old lady, she also points out that maybe the heroes or the police will come for her soon and that she has to go to work. And it's like, lady, it wouldn't be that hard to just grab the kid's wrist and just take him to a police station. So it's really interesting that that's where the line is drawn with the old lady, that it's the visual of Shigaraki is just kind of off-putting. And it just, this whole, I think like the presence of heroes and well, not police, but the presence of heroes may have just made people too complacent. It may have made people believe that, oh yeah, the heroes could just take care of every little thing. I don't have to worry about being a good citizen, or I don't have to worry about being moral. And if that's happening as a societal effect, that's a kind of like messed up consequence of heroes being around. But again, like the consequence, just to reiterate and to be clear, is that people just feel like they don't have to be moral because there's so many heroes that will be moral for them. You know, it takes away some of the responsibility there. Because like, I don't think it's that strange for someone to take a lost kid to a police station. That just makes sense. So it's interesting to see that kind of effect there, and her saying that the heroes of the police will surely come for him soon. Like, no, I think everyone still has a kind of moral duty to at least be a relatively good citizen if they are in the up and up of the... if they're in the light of society, they have a responsibility to be a good citizen. Anyway, after that, we go into a very quick monologue, internal thoughts, where Shigaraki is just pointing out the weirdness of the situation, and the justification that maybe there's just bigger trouble than a kid being lost. And again, this is just one of those terrible moments of the oversight of the hero system. Like, any number of reasons could contribute to why Shigaraki isn't being found. It could be very easily the heroes are all busy, there's no hero patrolling that area when Shigaraki is going through it. The heroes don't care. Who knows, maybe the people in that area just weren't worthwhile, or even All For One is watching this whole situation unfold, so he's controlling like the flow of heroes here. Who knows? It's hard to say. And Shigaraki is like also thinking about maybe it's punishment, maybe it's karma. Who knows? Could be. It's an interesting. Like the two pages together are very interesting because it just like points out some little things. That there are still people falling through the cracks. Although, like, if anything, when you think about hero society is the epitome of people falling through the cracks. No matter how you look at it, because like the very fact that there are villains still being created, that means that there's people discontent with society still falling through the cracks. This is not a perfect society by the very virtue that villains are still a thing. You can use that like on a very like principled argument to say that because most villains have terrible backstories. Wouldn't occur if it was a utopia, most likely, or it would occur less. I would argue. Anyway, That last page also shows that Shigaraki's getting back the itch, which just reinforces the itch as a stress thing. And then we go to page 4, which just is a culmination of the last 2 pages. Pretty much just saying like, yeah, if anyone had helped him at that time, things could have been differently. And then, you know, you have Shigaraki pointing out the 2 people that made an interaction with him. So this is pretty good because it just reaffirms how much one little act of kindness can do for a person if people were just willing to help. You know, it's like one of those situations where at this point you really need someone like Izuku, or you really need someone like Mirio, or you really need someone like Ida's brother, because this is the moment when heroes really step up, and no one stood up for Shigaraki, which was unfortunate. Instead, everyone just stares at him, which is particularly messed up. Anyway, by page 5, we go to the next little bit where Shigaraki gets found by All For One. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you. All For One finding Shigaraki under a bridge, I find that very suspicious. Like, that's really weird. Does All For One frequent bridges? Maybe. He might go to bridges to collect people with quirks. You never know. Like, that actually could be a normal occurrence for All For One. He might visit all the bridges in a day. I don't know his life. We don't know his life, so this is what makes the whole situation harder. Anyway, by that point, you have All For One starting his little bit of a brainwashing, you know, him saying that the itchiness is his body telling him that the impulses are overflowing, you know. That's just stimulus confusion. He's saying like, oh yeah, you got a stimulus here, this is why it's happening. So yes, that's just brainwashing, just confuse a kid with why things are happening. Pretty standard. Page 6, you just see the forging of Shigaraki, you see the tempering of it, and you can really see tempering when you see the panel of his hand wanting to go up, but he's holding it back as a fist, over the dialogue of All For One saying to follow his heart. So this is just building more of a case for how Shigaraki came to be. You know, with him being pushed down by a guy, it's just like he's getting bothered. He's not happy with society. He wants to use his quirk. Then you go into page 7 where it's just All For One talking to him and telling him like, yeah, it's okay, don't worry. Now, what I really liked in this page is how it's page 7. I'm not sure if I just said that, but it's how Shigaraki is like just scratching himself so much, like the itch is so strong. He's on the floor while All For One watches him. I really like the visual for that. That was a cool visual, because like that also paints a kind of idea of there was a little bit of a struggle going on. And by the end of the page, you see that okay, All For One's coaxing has more or less worked. He like Shigaraki now wants to dust the people that hit him. So I do like the use of All For One's narration as we're seeing the events with Shigaraki. I think it's a pretty normal storytelling technique, but it just reinforces and it does clear up the path that Shigaraki took, so that there are no real questions about this. All For One gives the narrative force for the imagery that we are seeing. Page 8 is interesting because here we see that Shigaraki did dust one of the hands that he had. So he dusted his father's hand. That was really interesting because then that later confirms that All For One did replace the hands with fakes. So that makes me feel like, yeah, all the hands really could be fake since they could fake one. So that's like worth noting. Anyway, at that point, you know, him destroying the hand, that's pretty much we're at the point of, okay, yeah, Shigaraki's, like every little thing is just carrying Shigaraki further and further into depravity. And that's one thing that the chapter does really well. So we go into page 9. Also, by this point, I think like there's like an issue with the page ordering, because I think I saw a different order of pages on Jaimini's box. And that might have been me reading wrong, but just keep that in mind. Anyway, by page 9, there's some interesting dialogue that occurs at the top of the page with the 2 guys saying that there's more hero offices popping around and that being a pain in the ass. Well, that's a pretty interesting little thing to have noted for that area, because one, it makes the situation with Shigaraki even more troubling, because if there's more hero offices in the area, where were the heroes? Like, well, what were they doing? Was this really just a blind spot in the heroes? It kind of sucks when you have more hero offices popping up and there's still blind spots, but it also informs you like, okay, if these guys are saying that's a pain in the ass, it's because these guys are probably criminals. These guys probably are like not the best people in society, so that's one thing to have there. The big shot of that though is that this is the first page where we see Shigaraki coming out in his full-handed attire. It does look pretty creepy to see a short person come out with all those hands on his faces. It's a pretty messed up image, I ain't gonna lie. Like that was pretty hardcore. We go into page 10. What I think is like the most valuable thing on page 10 isn't really Shigaraki dusting those people, but it's All For One watching. All For One watching kind of sets up the framework of how All For One could have been keeping an eye on Shigaraki. I mean, they're looking down at him from a building. They're talking about his memories. He's giving us information. Yeah, the bottom page of the bottom half of page 10. There we go. The bottom half of page 10 is the most interesting part because it's just giving us more context to make sure we're confirmed. Because All For One points it out, Shigaraki's still holding back his quirk, and we see like the effects of that. We know what the full version of the quirk is. It's where disintegrate propagates through everything that's touching. So it's cool that this is noted, and it's cool that this is confirmed that this is a subconscious holding back. Again, it's just saying that Shigaraki's mental state has a large effect on how his quirk works, which is really interesting. It is a really interesting effect to like limit by how much Shigaraki wants things, and it does call into question the whole idea about Shigaraki evolution, because if you put the stipulation that Shigaraki's mental state affects the way Shigaraki's quirk works, then Shigaraki being able to force his quirk to work with only 2 fingers just by the sheer necessity or by the sheer want of making it work, I think that's perfectly legal given what's being established so far. The other thing in the panels, of course, are them talking about the memories and also the reasoning of the family hands to aggravate Shigaraki and to keep him in check. I think Shigaraki gave All For One some very useful tools in controlling him with all of the way that the way that Shigaraki was created just gave All For One too many tools that he could use well. Anyway, page 11, the big important bit I think is the upper half, because that's the one saying that yeah, Shigaraki is going to become a symbol of destruction, and that All For One's going to nurture him. When you have him saying he's going to nurture him from that point, it really does make it feel like, okay, yeah, All For One might be really smitten with this kid. He might really be all in on the Shigaraki development train. The second half of page 11 is just letting readers know where the hands are, I suppose. I guess that's what it is. It's letting us know whose hand is where on Shigaraki's body. It's cool to know that his mother's hands are right on his throat. That's pretty dark, man. That's pretty depressing. Anyway, yes, they let us know where the hands are. I think that's okay. But like, again, this is the bottom half of page 11 is a nice little like trivia bit, but it's also a nice just reiteration. This chapter does a lot of reiteration to really emphasize the emotion of the situation. Page 12 I feel is a really interesting page. We start off with continuing from the monologue from page 11 that Shigaraki feels like he'll be forgiven no matter what he does. That's a really interesting effect of the hands being on him. Yeah, I suppose the hands are super comforting, so that makes sense. Then we move on and we're talking about the hands again. All For One tells us that Shigaraki is wearing the hands of the people he dusted for the first time after his family. That's really disturbing, man. Wearing the hands of the people you kill? Holy, that's really messed up. But, you know, you can also say, like, you didn't really see any hands in the previous page. So this just reinforces, okay, this is probably synthetic hands. And then All For One saying, like, oh, yeah, here's another gift. I'm going to give you a 5th one because you broke the other one. And that's just All For One giving Shigaraki the carrot before he gives him the stick, pretty much, right? Like, Shigaraki's just having... He has this guy who's giving him gifts. So that's most likely just endearing Shigaraki to him. And I do like how All For One has gone about making sure that Shigaraki doesn't forget what makes him, by having the hands symbolize like his first step down the road. Still, it's all really depraved, really depraved. Anyway, page 13, we have the full image of Shigaraki. He does look pretty scary with just the way that he's presented in the chapter. Like, I think I've gotten so used to seeing Shigaraki at a certain size that seeing Shigaraki now the way he is as a child with all those hands on there, pretty freaky. We move on and we find out the name, we find out the meaning of Shigaraki Tomura. Tomura, as we find out, is mourning, to mourn, and then he gives it the rationale of he's mourning his former self, Tenko Shimura. And then Shigaraki in page 14 being the guy's last name. That was interesting. I never would have expected that the younger brother would have had the last name Shigaraki. That was pretty hardcore, man. Like, wow. Gee. Yeah. Wow. That's really all I can say. I wasn't expecting that to ever be a factor. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, at that point, we're finally done with the flashback. We're 25 minutes into the recording. Anyway, whatever. We have Shigaraki confirming that he remembers everything now and saying that he doesn't need a future. That's really cool because that kind of makes me feel a little bit better, because if Shigaraki is abandoning himself after he completes whatever he wants to do and saying that his friends can do whatever he wants, that's cool. I kind of like that. I kind of like that he's just kind of letting go of keeping control for a long period of time. Yeah, okay, I think that could be making for a very interesting villain down the line. And then we have the monologue of him just kind of rationalizing everything he remembered, rationalizing, yeah, he killed his dad because he wanted to, rationalizing it wasn't a tragedy, although from the viewer perspective, it was a tragedy. I would argue it's built like a tragedy, it's written like a tragedy, it has the effects of a tragedy. Shigaraki might be viewing it as a different way, but that's, you know, different perspective. And then you have him just also rationalizing that he felt better after everyone crumbled away. I think that's more of a sad realization, especially when you consider that Shigaraki's mother was coming towards him. Like, I do feel like that one might still cause some degree of sadness, but we'll have to see how he develops in the future. Anyway, page 15, we're going into people just freaking out, and actually page 15 is just kind of rallying the troops, sort of. Rallying in terms of, I shouldn't say rallying, it's letting us know where all the troops are, because we get a shot of Toga and Twice, we have a shot of Mr. Compress and Dobby. That's all really worthwhile. Of course, Gigantomachia is rushing in there. That page just serves to like build the suspense, because everyone's just saying like, okay guys, this is really bad. He's heading right for Shigaraki. People are saying like the thing is unstoppable. He's crushing things like ants. You know, when you have all those descriptors, it's just telling you like, okay, this is a bad situation. And then we go into the final page, page 16, where Dobby and Apocrypha are still having their bit of a stand down. It's going to be very interesting to see how that goes, because we don't get to see either of their faces. And then we have Spinner having a shot there, which probably means that the guy on the van is leaving, because we see that the van is on the move. And then finally we have Shigaraki destroying the hand, which obviously, if the hands are something that keeps Shigaraki in check, if there's something that, you know, hold him in place, yeah, like the caption of the chapter says, he destroys the things that are holding him back. If the hands represent restraint, well, we've now lost the restraint on Shigaraki. So, can unrestrained Shigaraki change the game? Probably. Like, he's pretty crazy, man. Like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So that's where we are by the end of the chapter. Overall, I think it's a very solid chapter. When you look at the way it's structured, there's a lot of emphasis and a lot of re-emphasis on things, because he needs to make sure we understand what's going on here. And by the time that you get to the bottom here, if you see all the flashback as correct, then what you really should be coming out of this with is like, Shigaraki has chosen his path to the degree that you can honestly say that there is no going back for this guy. Like, he's beyond saving, which is kind of like, that idea is kind of against what I was thinking for the previous chapters. You know, could Shigaraki still be saved? I think so. It depends on what theme the author wants to go for. Like, does he want to make Izuku the person that can save even those who are so lost? That's fair. I mean, like, if we think about Star Wars, like, Luke saved Anakin, who was so far beyond repair, who was so far gone. And I remember, like, back when we had that Last Jedi fiasco, I remember people, that was like a big point of contention for people, that Luke is not the person that gives up on people or something like that. So, you know, if we play up the Star Wars love on Horikoshi's side, we could just say, like, that could be a path that Izuku's gonna go down on. Well, you know, I don't know, maybe, possible, right? But that's where we are by the end of the chapter. What I would say for sure is that with this Shigaraki development, it makes Shigaraki a stronger villain, because now Shigaraki knows what he's about. He's not being told what he's about. He's forming his identity and he might be more compelling than he was before this fight started. So that's where I'm going to leave it there. It's really been a really long video. It went too long. I apologize, but doing the step-by-step analysis takes time. Guys, let me know what you thought down below, and yeah, let's call it there. Till next time, I hope you have a great day. Gonna go walk to get the thing. Anyway, hasta la vista.